There's something about the night that makes us question everything. When you can't see the way forward, when the answers don't come easy, when the doors won't open, fear starts whispering, maybe this is where it ends. But let me tell you something. The night is not your enemy. The night is where God teaches you how to see differently. Darkness has a way of making us feel stuck, lost, and even abandoned. It tricks us into believing that nothing good can come from it. But let me challenge your perspective. What if the darkness isn't meant to stop you, but to strengthen you? What if this season of uncertainty, delay, or struggle is not a dead end, but a divine setup? Think about some of the greatest transformations happen in the dark. A seed is planted in the soil where no one can see it growing, yet deep beneath the surface, roots are stretching, foundations are forming, and new life is preparing to emerge. A baby is formed in the hidden place of the womb where no eyes can witness the miracle unfolding. Even diamonds are created under intense pressure and in complete darkness before they shine. What if your current darkness is working for your you and not against you? See, you've been conditioned to fear the night. We associate it with struggle, confusion, and delay. Hey, but what if the night is God's way of repositioning you? When you can't rely on what you see, you're forced to rely on what you know, who God is, on what He has promised, and on the vision placed inside of you before the night even came. This is why night vision is critical. It's in the night that God sharpens your faith, teaches your resilience, and reveals your true strength. Many times we think delay means denial, but God is saying, I'm not denying you, I'm developing you. The night seasons are necessary because they push us beyond our own understanding and into deeper trust. It's in the night that you learn to pray with power, to worship with conviction, and to walk in faith even when you don't have all the answers. If you only knew what was happening behind the scenes, you wouldn't rush through the night, you would embrace it. Think about Joseph, thrown into a pit, forgotten in a prison, misunderstood, betrayed, and left in the dark. But what looked like a dead end was a divine setup. God was preparing him for something greater than he could ever imagine. The darkness didn't destroy him, it positioned him for destiny. And the same goes for you. That closed door wasn't rejection, it was redirection. That delay wasn't punishment, it was preparation. That season of isolation wasn't abandonment, it was transformation. What feels like the end is often the beginning of something you can't even comprehend yet. So don't curse the darkness, learn to see in it. Don't fight the process, trust the promise. Your night season is a setup, not a setback. Hold on, because when the morning comes, you won't just survive the night. You'll emerge stronger, wiser, and more powerful than ever before. Vision is easy when the path is clear, when the doors are open, when everything aligns the way we expect. But real faith, the kind that transforms lives, breaks chains, and moves mountains, is not built in the daylight. It is built in the moments when sight fails, when nothing makes sense, when everything in you wants to quit. Faith is seeing beyond what your natural eyes can perceive. It's trusting in what God said, even when what you see looks like the complete opposite. There comes a time when life will test what you really believe, when the doctor's report doesn't match the healing you prayed for, when the bank account doesn't reflect the financial breakthrough you were expecting, when the people you thought would stay suddenly walk away. And in that moment, you have a choice. Will you let what you see shake your faith, or will you let your faith shift what you see? You see, faith is not just about believing when things are good. Faith is believing when the storm is raging, when the promise feels far away, when the night seems unending. Faith says, even though I can't see the way, I trust the one who is leading me. Faith is what allows you to keep moving forward, even when you don't have all the answers. Think about Peter walking on water. As long as his focus was on Jesus, he defied everything that made sense: gravity, logic, even fear. But the moment he focused on the wind and the waves, he began to sink. Why? Because he let what he saw overpower what he knew. He knew Jesus was able. He knew Jesus had called him out, but sight got in the way of faith. And that's where many of us find ourselves. We start the journey strong, full of confidence, but when the storm hits, we let what we see dictate what we believe. That's why faith requires a different kind of vision. It's night vision. It's the ability to trust that even in the dark, even when you don't have clarity, even when the enemy is whispering lies, God is still moving. Just because you can't see the breakthrough doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because Abraham had to walk by faith when God told him to leave everything he knew and step into the unknown. Noah had to walk by faith when he built an ark without ever seeing rain. The woman with the issue of blood had to walk by faith when she reached for the hem of Jesus' garment, believing for a healing she hadn't experienced yet. Faith is not about what you see. It's about what you believe in spite of what you see. So today, I challenge you, stop letting fear be your eyes. Stop letting your situation define your faith. Walk boldly, even in the dark, because God has already gone before you. You may not see the whole picture, but trust me, you're exactly where you need to be. Keep walking, keep believing, keep pressing forward, because faith is seeing when sight fails.
We love to celebrate the victories, the open doors, and the moments when everything finally makes sense. But what we don't always realize is that the strength we admire, the faith we aspire to, and the purpose we long for are often forged in the night seasons of life. It's in the dark, hidden places where nothing seems to be working in our favor that God does his deepest work in us. See, we want the purpose without the process. We want the strength without the struggle. But let me tell you, real strength isn't developed in comfort. It's developed in the pressing. It's developed in the moments when quitting feels like the easiest option, but something inside of you refuses to give up. It's in the moments when nobody sees you, when the prayers feel unanswered, when the journey feels endless. That's when God is building something unshakable in you. Look at David. He was anointed as king while still a shepherd boy, but before he ever sat on the throne, he had to go through a night season. He had to fight battles in secret. He had to be overlooked, rejected, and chased down before he ever stepped into the fullness of his calling. Why? Because God wasn't just preparing the throne for David, he was preparing David for the throne. His strength had to be built in the wilderness before he could handle the weight of his destiny. And the same is true for you. You're not in the night because God has forgotten you. You're in the night because God is developing something in you that daylight could never produce. Your character, your endurance, your ability to trust even when you don't understand. That is where true strength is formed. purpose isn't revealed in the spotlight, it's revealed in the secret place. It's in the moments when you're stretched, when you're tested, when you're forced to rely on God like never before. It's in the night that you discover who you really are. Because when you strip away the applause, the validation, and the easy roads, all that's left is what's real. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. The greatest assignment the world has ever known, our salvation, was sealed in a night season. It was in the darkness, in the crushing, in the moment of surrender that the greatest purpose was revealed. And if Jesus had to go through the night to fulfill his destiny, why do we think we can skip the process? So don't despise the night. Don't let the enemy convince you that darkness means defeat. No, the night is where you're being strengthened for what's ahead. The night is where God is shaping you for the promise. The night is where purpose is being revealed in you. Hold on. Stay faithful. Keep pushing. Because when the morning comes, you won't just step into purpose. You'll step into it with a strength you never knew you had. Fear has a way of making us shrink, making us doubt, making us settle for less than what God has for us. But let me tell you something. Your breakthrough isn't on the other side of your fear. It's buried right in the middle of it. The very thing you're afraid to face, the place that seems too painful, too overwhelming, too impossible, that's where your victory is waiting. The enemy thrives in the shadows. He knows that if he can keep you afraid, if he can keep you distracted by what might go wrong, you'll never step into what God has already set up for you. That's why every time you get close to something great, fear shows up. It whispers, "You're not ready. You're not enough. You'll fail just like before." But the devil is a liar. What if the fear isn't a sign to turn back, but a signal that you're standing right at the door of your next breakthrough? Look at the story of the Israelites when they stood at the edge of the promised land. God had already given them the land. It was theirs. But when they saw the giants, when they saw the obstacles, fear took over. Instead of trusting God's promise, they let their fear delay their destiny. And how many of us are doing the same thing? How many of us are standing at the edge of something great, but instead of stepping forward, we retreat? You see, the enemy wants you to believe that what's ahead of you is too big for you, but what's ahead of you is too big for you alone. That's why you need God. Your breakthrough isn't about your strength, your strategy, or your qualifications. It's about your obedience. It's about trusting that if God called you to it, he will equip you for it. Think about Gideon. When God called him a mighty warrior, he didn't believe it. He was hiding. He was afraid. But God didn't call him based on where he was. He called him based on where he was going. God saw victory in him before he could even see it in himself. And when Gideon finally stepped past his fear, he led a mighty victory. And I wonder, what would happen if you stopped running from the thing that scares you? What if you faced it head on, knowing that God has already gone before you? That fear of failure, that fear of rejection, that fear of not being enough, it's been holding you hostage for too long. But today, I need you to realize that your breakthrough isn't somewhere far away. It's right there in the thing you've been avoiding. So step forward, move in faith, even if your knees are shaking. Walk boldly, even if your voice trembles, because your victory is already secured. Your breakthrough is already written. And if you can just push past the fear, you will see what God has been preparing for you all along.